All right, so today is Tuesday, 24th of September, 2024, and we are having the pre-New York session analysis. Good afternoon, Madam Onaji. So let's quickly run through the fundamentals, then we'll go to the technicals to see what lies ahead this afternoon. All right, so this afternoon we have quite a number of events. 2 p.m., there's a news from the United States, that's the S&P CS Composite 20 HPI yearly. That's a dollar news coming up by 2 p.m. It's a medium impact event. By 3 p.m., we have the USD CB Consumer Confidence. And simultaneously by 3 p.m., we have the Richmond Manufacturing Index. So between 2 and 3 p.m., we have two events coming up from the United States. And by 6:10 p.m., there is going to be a news come up from Canada, and this is going to be a speech by the Bank of Canada Governor Macklin. He's going to give a speech by 6:10 p.m. So majorly what we have during this session is actually the news coming in from the US, 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. respectively. So now this is how we're going to view this event. Now let's look at the first one, which is the S&P CS Composite. Now, this news measures the change in the selling price of single-family homes in 20 metropolitan areas. And actual greater than forecast is good for the currency. And the event by 3 p.m., the CB Consumer Confidence measures the level of a composite index based on surveyed households. Actual greater than forecast also is good for the currency. And the Richmond Manufacturing Index measures the level of a composite index based on surveyed manufacturers in Richmond. Actual greater than forecast is good for the currency. So for all the dollar event this afternoon, actual greater than forecast is expected to be good for the currency. So going by that information, by 2 p.m., if the actual is released and the actual is greater than the forecast, the data is going to be in green. And that will lead to a bullish movement on the dollar. And if the actual comes out less than the forecast, which is the opposite, then we'll have the data released in red color. And in that instance, we expect a bearish movement, on the dollar. However, if the data comes out to the black means actually got the forecast. Movement may not be, much movement may not be expected in that it's like a neutral state. Personally advised in such situations, we may just decide to stay out of the market. Now, by 3 p.m., we have two other events also. We have the CB Consumer Confidence and the Richmond Manufacturing Index. Now, these two events, if the actual comes out greater than the forecast, then we'll have a green scenario, which is expected to lead to a bullish movement on the dollar. Again, if the actual comes out less than the forecast for both of them, we have a red scenario, which will lead to a bearish movement on the dollar. Now, it's also possible because the data may not be, we could have a scenario where the data might have a conflict, that is one is good and the other is bad. That may happen. If you have such scenario, maybe a green and a red, in such instance, that may lead to a spike. That is, one is buying while the other is selling. That may lead us to a spike scenario, which is usually not a good experience. So the best scenario we are expecting is if we have a green by 2 p.m., if we have a green by 2 p.m., then some bullish movement is expected on the dollar. And if by 3 p.m. we have another green scenario, then we'll see further bullish movement, on the dollar. And if we have a red on the dollar by 2 p.m. and we have a red by 3 p.m., then that will lead to a continuation in a bearish direction on the dollar. These are the two best scenarios, to expect in this afternoon session for the dollar. Now, I'll flip over now to the technicals. We look at what, we're expecting technically from these events we are anticipating. So I'll switch now to my MetaTrader platform. Now, earlier in the week, I just mentioned that I held a bullish outlook on the dollar, and that view on the dollar is still maintained. I still hold that bullish outlook on the dollar, especially on the USD CHF. So if the news comes out good for the dollar, I said it yesterday, Monday, that I was seeing a scenario of an inverse head and shoulder on the dollar on the daily time frame. So we have an inverse head and shoulder. So if the news comes out good for the dollar and the dollar is able to break the neckline, now that's a condition. There's a neckline right there on the dollar, that blue line over there at 0.85225. If the dollar is able to break that neckline, then we will have, a massive bullish movement on the dollar. So but then what if the news comes out bad for the dollar? If it comes out bad for the dollar, definitely we'll see a decline in dollar. If the price may target the old support, but eventually I still expect a reversal into the bullish direction. So I still maintain an long-term bullish outlook on the dollar. Now, with that long-term bullish outlook in view, there are some instruments I believe might move faster and this afternoon, and one of them is the AUD USD. Now, currently the AUD USD is trading as a rising wedge pattern on the 1 hour time frame. Now, there's a previous confluence on the weekly from the monthly time frame, downwards. There's been a descending trend line from the monthly time frame downwards to the weekly, and equally forming a resistance right at the weekly time frame, both of them leading to a possible bearish movement on the AUD USD, and that's on the weekly and the monthly. If you take it down to the daily, 4 hour, and now 1 hour, it's now that confluence zone now is resulting into the formation of a head and shoulder pattern on the AUD USD. So if the news comes out good for the dollar, 2 p.m., 3 p.m., then we're expecting a decline in the AUD USD. So this is an instrument I want you to pay a close attention to this afternoon with anticipation that the news will come out good for the dollar. If the news comes out good for the dollar and price is able to break below the neckline region, right here, break below the neckline at 0.68229, then we're expecting a further bearish breakout on the AUD USD. So I hold a bearish outlook on the AUD USD. And gold might also move or react to this news, all things being equal. Now for gold, if you go to the daily weekly time frame of gold, we can see that gold is forming a rising wedge on the weekly time frame. It's forming a rising wedge on the weekly time frame. If we go down to the daily, we can clearly see that today's candle, even from yesterday, gold hit a resistance on this, upper trend line of the rising wedge. You can see price touched the rising wedge multiple times on the weekly time frame, which you can confirm on the daily. These are higher highs, and here is also a higher high. And the wave is this. You have, a higher high, a higher low, a higher high, and the next wave should be a higher low wave. So all this pointing us to a potential bearish movement on gold. And so this candle currently on that, higher high, which is on the resistance level, is looking a lot like a rejection candle. That's the daily candle. If we flip down to the 4-hour candle, we can clearly see that there was a previous rejection candle on 4 hour. All this pointing us to a possible bearish breakout on gold. Now, this is 1 hour time frame for gold, and I can clearly see we have a pattern. On one side here, it looks closely to a head and shoulder pattern, which may give us a bearish breakout. And on the other side also, you can still call it a rising wedge pattern right here. So by and large, from the weekly time frame down to 1 hour, all we're seeing is a potential bearish movement on gold. So all things being equal, this is a rising wedge. I think we should even hold on to the rising wedge pattern. All things being equal, if price is able to break below the neckline, there's a neckline for the rising wedge, somewhere around here. So if price is able to break out below that zone, then we have to have a bearish movement on gold. So I hold a bearish outlook on AUD, USD, and gold, ahead of the events, the fundamental events we have this afternoon. And I also hold a bearish outlook on the GBP USD, likewise. For the GBP USD, we also have a confluence right from the weekly, daily, and currently on the 1 hour, price is trading around a channel where you have the higher region here. We've had the various movements, higher low, higher low, and on like that. We expect a downtrend. So if the news again comes out good for the dollar, we're expecting a decline on GBP USD. So 3 instruments I'm paying a lot of attention to this afternoon. If the news comes out good for the dollar, that is a green for the dollar, for the 2 p.m. news, a green for the 3 p.m. news, I'm expecting a decline on the AUD USD, a decline on gold, a decline on the GBP USD. By the word decline, I mean a bearish movement on these 3 instruments I've mentioned. All right, so that'll be all from my analysis this afternoon ahead of the news we're expecting by 2 p.m. It's a fundamental event. The one by 2 p.m. is actually a medium impact event. You never can tell how it's going to impact upon the market since we have a technical setup. But all the same, let's just prepare ourselves, for the direction I've mentioned for this event. All right, so that'll be all from me this afternoon for this analysis. I want us to trade safe and enjoy the rest of the day. Bye-bye.